What is up, Raider Nation? My name is Anthony Galaviz. It's August 25th. It's a Monday, a day before the NFL teams have to reduce their roster to 53, the initial 53-man roster, and the Raiders are one of those teams that need to get down to 53. And, you know, wow, what a busy Monday it was for the Raiders, right? I mean, moves after moves after moves after moves. It seems like one after another, like an avalanche. The Raiders are working. They're trying to figure out what to do with their roster, and one of the things that they need to get at is the quarterback situation, backup for that matter. But before I go there, just want to say coming up for the Raiders this week. Now, obviously, there's no game this week. As the team prepares to get down to the initial 53-man roster, then signing practice squad players. So it's going to be an interesting day, I believe, come Tuesday. See what happens, who else is cut. Because the reason why I say that is because, well, actually, before I get there, let me say this. Um, for the rest of the week, the Raiders, the schedule, there's media availability tomorrow with selected players. There's also practice, so practice doesn't start till like 3:30, so it's going to be a late one. Then on Wednesday, as I mentioned on Twitter or X, General Manager John Spytek will speak to the media to obviously discuss the roster reductions and why they traded for Kenny Pickett today, why they signed Amari Cooper, returning to the silver and black. So he'll address those two topics again with the roster reduction, why they signed who, why they, all this other stuff. So then also Thursday, head coach Pete Carroll will speak to the media. Uh, back up to Wednesday, practice at 1:45. Then Thursday, practice in the morning, 8:45. Coach Pete Carroll speaking to the media at 10:30. So again, John Spidey Wednesday, time to be determined, and Pete Carroll on Thursday at 10:30. So there you have it. The Raiders started some cuts today. They waived several players today, so they got down to, I counted 73. They're down to 73 now, I believe, or 71. Whatever the case may be, because the Raiders still got work to do and get their reduction. I mean, get the roster down to 53. So, uh, any surprises today? No. I think all the names here, except when I do my projections, I had Jalen Smith making the roster, but obviously I was wrong. But other than that, I did pretty good. So we'll see tomorrow who else is cut. I mean, it's life changing for some who are going to get cut, but also opportunities knocking on the door, whether returning to the Raiders in the practice squad or being picked up by another team. So, among the Raiders releasing today was wide receiver Marquez Callaway, Philip Dorsett, Colin Johnson, and Jalen Smith. So, veterans already cut there. Looking at the Sam Webb, it's another notable who was released today or waived. Spent time with the Raiders on the active roster, so now he's gone for now. So we'll see what happens tomorrow with the other cuts. So there you have it as far as the Raider goes, cutting today. Um, the other piece of news today, obviously, came out of nowhere. That would be wide receiver Jakobi Meyers. Um, he requested to be traded. Surprising, to say the least. All because of contract negotiations. Uh, I was surprised, like many of you were. Jakobi Meyers, the Raiders have, this would be his third season with the Raiders. Raiders already said that they're not going to trade Jakobi Meyers. Uh, this guy has been, as I said on X, he's been a guy who's just been very productive for the Raiders. Hardly missed any games, if that any. Last year he played 15 games, and the year before he played 16 games. 16, excuse me. It made it sound like I said 60. Dealing with allergies, of course. Always dealing with allergies. But anyways, for 2 years with the Raiders, Jakobi Meyers just kept quiet, and went about his business for the Raiders. Whether it be for Josh McDaniels or Antonio Antonio Pierce. Uh, he just kept quiet and produced for the Raiders. Uh, spent the first 4 seasons in the NFL with the New England Patriots. Uh, while with the Patriots in 2020, the Raiders knew what they were getting with Jakobi Meyers when they signed him. He was very productive again with the Patriots. The one year he had in 2021, he had 866 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. Uh, that's not very much, obviously. 2 touchdowns. The year before that, 2020, he had 729 yards, but no touchdowns. But when he came to the Raiders in 2023, he played 16 games. He was targeted 106 times, had 71 receptions, 807 yards, and 8 touchdowns, a career high for him in 2023 for the Raiders. First year with the Raiders, mind you. Um, that's hard to ignore because he just kept quiet and went about his business because that's who he is. Does not a talker, doesn't like to talk trash. Just he's about business. And looking at this other stats here for him, 2023, and then last year, 2024. Uh, which other who? I mean, for him to get 1,027 yards, that's saying a lot because here he is. Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell were his quarterbacks, and for him to pick up over 1,000 yards, that tells you that this guy is somebody you want on your team. He's a must for the Raiders to keep him. Uh, and to keep him, they need to shout out the money to Jakobi Meyers because he's proven already that he deserves every bit of that money, penny, cent, whatever. John Spidek needs to figure out, sit down at the desk with Jakobi Meyers and his agent, and come up with a reasonable amount, where they're going to agree to. Apparently, I guess an offer was drawn out, and they didn't come to terms. They need to sit down and figure this out before the season opener. The Raiders would be clueless if they ended up trading Jakobi Meyers. Because that's a guy, like I said, you got to keep. Not very, not many players will come around like him. Okay, look at all that stuff that happened last year with Devontae Adams. He kept quiet and went about his business, and that's what you want from a player. Somebody who's not going to be, who's not going to carry extra baggage, and be a distraction for the team. If he's proven day in and day out that that he should earn that money, that he deserves that money. It's kind of like all of us working out there in the field. We strive to be our best, and if we strive to be our best, we get a raise, right? Same thing with Jakobi Meyers. He's proven those numbers, proven it that he deserves a raise and remain with the Raiders because the Raiders, Geno Smith, and he's already talking about Geno. He's open about talking about Geno Smith playing with him, how he inspires him with this and that. I mean, I know, I just get the feeling Jakobi Meyers does want to play with Geno Smith, and the Raiders need to come, with a reasonable amount, if not a little bit more money, to give to Jakobi Meyers because he's earned every bit of it. Now, I just don't understand, what's the issue here? Him asking for a trade, which is surprising because, for one, he's not much of a talker, but his agent, is doing his work for him, and they need to come up with a solution to keep Jakobi Meyers in the silver and black, especially if the Raiders want to win now. That's been reported already. Um, Pete Carroll wants to win now. There's not no rebuilding here. Max Crosby is tired of losing. He's already mentioned that. He wants to win now. You got to keep somebody like that with Myers on your team to pair up with the Brock Bowers, the Ashton Jinty, Trey Tucker, um, Dante Thornton, Jack Beck. Um, it's a no-brainer. You got to keep him. You got to pay him. Pay him the money. As a journalist, we're here to report, what comes across, whether it be, if you have sources or you aggregate something. Um, I feel like, outside looking in, Jakobi Meyers, he deserves, every bit of that money that should be coming to him. Because if it's not going to be from the Raiders, they're going to come from somebody else if they trade him, which I don't think they'll trade him, and especially not to the Patriots, who's your week one opponent. Let's be real here. But I just think Jakobi Meyers is very deserving of a new contract or an extension for that matter, and just go about his business like he's always like he always is since he entered the league in 2019. Um, Even at 359 yards with the Patriots in 2019 is pretty impressive, to be honest. Um, so that's how I feel about the whole spiel there with Jakobi Meyers. Yeah, I was surprised, like I said, about the trade request, but the Raiders already said they're not going to fulfill it. So if they're not going to fulfill it, next thing they need to do is sit at the table in Henderson, Nevada, in those offices, and come to a reasonable amount that Jakobi Meyers can be happy with, so he can feed himself, feed his family, whatever. So there you have it. Talking about Jakobi Meyers here on this Raider eventful Monday. So, anyways, that's how I feel. Like I said about Jakobi Meyers. Moving on. Next order of business. Raiders signed Amari Cooper. Remember covering the Raiders in Oakland? Catches the ball, a lot of coo like that, right? So he's back with the Raiders. Raiders traded him in 2019 to the Dallas Cowboys. And with the Cowboys, he did pretty good for himself because in 2019, he had close to 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. 2020, he had over 1,000 yards again, 5 touchdowns, and then 2020 with the Cowboys. Let me take that back. Sorry. So with the Dallas Cowboys in 2018, when they traded him during the season, he had 725 yards. That's right after having 280 yards with a touchdown with the Raiders in 2018. Then he followed that up with 735 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. And then he had back-to-back 1,000 yard season in 2019 and 2020. 2021, 865, 8 touchdowns. And then 2022, he was shipped to the Cleveland Browns, where he had back-to-back 1,000 yards yards. 9 touchdowns with the Browns in 2022, 2023 5 touchdowns. Then 2024 he was with two teams, Cleveland and Buffalo, and I think those are decent numbers. 2024 where he had 547 yards and 250 yards. Well, that's combined total. 250 with the Browns and 297 with a pair of touchdowns each. So 4 last year. And apparently, Amari Cooper turned down some other teams, including the 49ers, to reunite with the Raiders. it's interesting to see what's left of Amari Cooper. I know a lot of you that I've chatted with on X. We're talking about his drop C's and all this other stuff. Yeah, you might have some drops, but he'll still a competitor. He was still putting up numbers, and I don't think that was the issue then. Like he gets a bunch of drops, but I look at the numbers and I can see that he's produced. And if he's say Amari Cooper that entered the league with the Raiders, where he had 1,000 yards in his rookie season with 6 touchdowns, that's going to be a big win for the Raiders. To be honest, uh, Pete Carroll, he apparently he wanted Amari Cooper, and he has him. So now, if you look at it from the outside looking in, Raiders receivers right now, you have Jakobi Meyers, Amari Cooper, Dante Thornton, Jack Beck, Trey Tucker. That's five I'm counting right now, right? Hope I'm not missing somebody. But so I had been harping on the Raiders to sign a wide receiver during the free agency period. None of that happened. I guess they were happy with what they drafted in the NFL draft, and Dante Thornton has shown that he's capable of handling business. I keep saying business because that's what it is, business. But with adding Amari Cooper with some leadership, veteran presence, it's going to bode well for the Raiders. I think, especially when you have Geno Smith. Sure, Geno Smith is hyped up having Amari Cooper, knowing that what he's capable of. Amari Cooper listed at 6'1", 211 pounds. I'm sure he's going to feel right at home with the Raiders. Who he joined. In the 2015 draft. So, wow. So we'll see come week one how everything evolves when it comes to the Raiders and having Jacoby Myers and Amari Cooper. That's affordable lineup there, to be honest. Along with Brock Bowers and then Ashton Jeanty. I mean, then you got Chip Kelly calling the plays. I'm sure Chip Kelly is chomping at the bit at the moment, trying to figure out, okay, how I'm going to make this work. Uh, Kind of felt like Amari Cooper was kind of lost last year. Big bounce from Cleveland to Buffalo, not being himself. So maybe with returning to the Raiders, they'll get him energized to produce like he did before when he played for the Raiders before going on to the Cowboys and the Browns. In his 10 years in the league, he's had over 10,000 yards with 64 touchdowns. So, sure, he's looking to add to those totals this year with Smith as his quarterback. So, I mean, the Raider offense had a lot of potential, and if they could, make everything work together, it could be a special season. But that's with, like trying to think. You just gotta, you know, relax there for a little bit because there's a lot of. I know you Raider Nation has been disappointed for a number of years already. Minus the 2016 season, and then 2021, you know, going to the playoffs, but it hasn't been smooth sailing for the Raiders with all these coaching changes that happened. So just maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel here with Pete Carroll bringing in talented athletes. And I'm sure Pete Carroll doesn't want to lose Jacoby Myers after having bringing in Amari Cooper and signing him to a contract, 1 year contract. That's being reported by NFL.com, ESPN, and so forth. So there you have it. Amari Cooper rejoining the Raiders. Hasn't been made official yet by the Las Vegas Raiders, but most likely it'll be tomorrow. So we'll see what happens um, come Tuesday. And the last order of business here, as I go to 20 minutes. I was talking about going 30 minutes, but doesn't look like going to be 30 minutes because I have some other stuff I need to work on. Uh, but the Raiders needed a backup quarterback because Aaron O'Connell has a fractured wrist, so he's out for 8 weeks. And they swung a deal with the Cleveland Browns to bring in Kenny Pickett. Um, I think that's a good trade for the Raiders to acquire Pickett because I just never understood. And I use that word never understood because I thought that way about Amari Cooper. Go back to Amari Cooper real quick. Why did Raiders trade it away when John Gruden was a coach, when Reggie McKenzie was a general manager? Why did you trade away Amari Cooper for let alone kill him back? Never understood all that. I guess we'll never find out unless John Gruden writes a book and gives them a tell all of why he did what such a thing because that Amari Cooper trade ended up with Jonathan Abram, and that flopped big time. And so, just maybe this time around, Cooper will repay the Raiders and say thank you very much, and this is how we reward you with big numbers. Anyways, back to Pickett because I forgot to mention that to you guys because I did mention it on Twitter. Kenny Pickett joins the Raiders. Um, Pete Carroll did talk about like they wanted somebody with experience, and Kenny Pickett brings all of that. First into the league with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Still don't know why the Steelers gave up on him because Pickett is 15-10 as a starter. So, Pickett is very capable of leading the offense. Um, and I just think that I think this year's quarterback room is a lot better than what you saw last year. As you guys know, that it was Aiden O'Connell guarded issue. It was like the Raiders didn't know what to do last year. It was just a hot mess. And with Kenny Pickett though, at 6'3", 220 pounds, the Raiders have a capable backup quarterback to help along the way in case something were to happen to Geno Smith. And again, you hope that doesn't happen. Uh, Kenny Pickett, 27 years old. Um, don't know how the Raiders are going to end up finishing the season. Uh, are they going to be in the market for a franchise quarterback in the draft? Too early to tell, but Pickett, 27 years old. So be Geno Smith stays healthy with the Raiders. Pickett will be 30-31 when that deal ends, assuming the Raiders keep Pickett. Pickett has all the tangibles, I believe, to be a pretty good, solid backup quarterback, if not a starter, and he showed that. So I think that's a good pairing for the Raiders to bring in Pickett, signing him or trading for him. Uh, let's see, he's bounced around two seasons with the Steelers. He was traded to the Eagles last season. Hey, at least he has a Super Bowl ring for one, because he played behind Jalen Hurts. Maybe he'll bring that winning mojo to the Raiders. Where all everything that he learned with the Eagles um, pays off for the Raiders. Uh, but the Browns end up acquiring Pickett because the Browns traded a 2025 fifth round pick and a quarterback Dorian Thompson Robinson for Pickett in March, and Thompson Robinson was released today too. So the Raiders get a quarterback in Pickett. I think that's a pretty good thing for the Raiders to acquire. I think John Smidek did a good job on that one. So at least the Raiders on offense are looking at least respectable in my mind. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I just feel that the Raiders look a little bit better. But we'll see how everything shapes out tomorrow. Who they sign on Wednesday or Thursday, because you got to go through all that waiver wire process and who they're going to sign from another team. Because, like I said, initial 53-man roster doesn't mean the roster is set in stone. There's always bouncing around throughout the whole season. So you make a team. Remember seeing where somebody celebrated making the roster, but then they got cut. It wasn't with the Raiders, but I just remember seeing that somewhere before. But um, it's a tough business to have because all these players are trying to make are trying to provide for family, and so it's a rough business. We all get that. But for now, the Raiders need to make Jakobi Meyers happy. They also need to make sure that because I think the Raiders roster looks strong. Now we'll just see it on the field how they do. But like I said, got to see what happens tomorrow. Who they sign, who they release, and who they end up signing the next 2 days. Then we can talk even more, and then just figure out. Maybe I'll revisit the win-loss record because this is a whole different roster than what we've seen back after the draft. Um, so, anyways, that's what I want to talk about today with 25 minutes, close to 26 minutes. I enjoyed talking about this. And like I said, I was going to talk about this. I usually go 10 minutes. I went a little bit longer than that. But that's okay because I enjoy talking about the Raiders. And, I appreciate all you followers on X. You guys are very passionate about your team. You love your team. It's a love and hate relationship, right? But hopefully your Raiders will do something this year to make you guys happy, something to look forward to, instead of hitting your head and just like, here we go again. Kind of like what happened with Jakobi Meyers with all this trade talk. Like, it's never quiet before the season starts. Something always pops up. So it happens, I guess. So I guess you Raider fans, Raider Nation are used to it by now. So, and as the reporters, same thing. It's like, okay, what's new? What's next? There's never a dull moment. So, all right, guys. Well, appreciate you guys watching. I usually put like a thing at the end, but I'm just gonna let this roll, and I'm gonna publish it online. Well, you'll probably see it by now. I'm just talking about it. So, hit the like, subscribe button, and appreciate you guys for following, subscribing, and enjoying the banter that we both have online. Because I like to talk to you guys or chat with you guys. Like I said before, if I see good, I see good. If I see bad, I bad. I'm gonna talk about it. Never try to talk about it. Never try to criticize. I'm not here to cheer. I'm not here to throw some pom poms. So that's the way it is with me. I just kind of I don't want to be deceiving or anything like that. Just call it like I did. Call it like I see it. So all right, my name is Anthony Galavese, and we'll talk again soon.